Welcome to another episode of Mindful City, Tuning into Life, a podcast that brings you an intimate exploration of the businesses, practitioners, and artists making an impact in our community. Join us on Patreon for an exploration of all the people, places, and things that raise consciousness in our community by telling us about the businesses and happenings you'd like to know more about, and we'll explore them for you. Welcome to another episode of Mindful Cities Tuning into Life. I'm your host, Helen Blocker, and sitting in for my co-host, Heather Grutzbacher. We have our special guest today, Yuliya Cohen. And Heather is actually the one that introduced me to Yuliya, but we never really got to meet until today for our chat, which I really love it in this way because then I get to be super curious about everything about you, Yuliya, and what you do in the community. And so much of what we want to share here on the podcast is about healing, mindfulness, all practices that are available and that the community doesn't know, the incredible gems that are in their community very close to them that can help them in their journey to a more mindful life. So welcome, Yuliya.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to meet you as well. I've heard so much of you.
Oh, thank you. And I right away want to dive into your name on your Instagram when I went, which is Healing Without Effort. Now, we're definitely going to dive into that because often healing is considered to be something that takes a lot of effort. And obviously, that's something very specific that you've been focusing on. But if you want to share with us a little bit, how did you even get to this part of healing without effort? What is your story to beginning to offer this type of healing to the community?
Well, when I began my personal growth journey, I've been doing this work by this point about 38 years.
Wow.
So it was quite a while. And I don't know if you were aware at that time, the thing that was in was primal scream therapy,
Mm-hmm.
which means, or any variation of that. So basically, if you would put a person into the trauma, into the place of overwhelm, and so that they could cry and shake and the more they cried and shook, the more effective your session was. And so as we talked before, and I said that I have I'm trained healer. I was in a mystery school for 9 years, but before that I have degree in engineering and computer science. And so when you think about the way we fix things, so if your heating system doesn't work and you invited someone, right, to come and fix it, and suddenly everything starts shaking and screeching,
you don't believe it's
you
being
would get
fixed.
worried, you would get concerned about like what this person is doing. So I looked at it and I thought, there's no other system we try to fix that way.
Mm-hmm, that's true.
Right? So sometimes it's very helpful to have like a point of reference to something else, because we just get so pulled in the particular system, right, that we forget to question the sanity of it and practicality of it. And so like what I did, I went to God and I said, I do not believe that this is the best way, the very best way, because we were told this is it. This is the very best way. This is, you know, what healing is. This is what processing is. And I said, I refuse to believe. I mean, you who created all these amazing things in the world, and this is the best way with healing. So I feel that the process of healing should be the same as the result. So if we want to be in a particular state of ease and grace, right?
Mm-hmm.
And lightness and gentleness and love, then each step of the process should be the same way.
Right. Yeah. That's a beautiful perspective because, I think we do get a sense outside of us and in the community right now, in society, anything you look on social media, that seems that everything has to be difficult and
Everything has to be difficult.
hard
Yes.
work all the time, painful, reliving traumas. How do you take people out of that concept, really? Like when you're dealing with clients to help them heal, they may even come with that preconceived notion that that's what they have to do.
Absolutely. Everybody comes, including myself,
Mm-hmm.
because like I'm really great. I'm very clear when I work with clients, but when I try to work on myself,
Mm-hmm.
especially in some, complicated situation, I also sometimes forget
Yes.
and I
Yeah.
start efforting. And I was just like, so it makes me appreciate how hard it is to erase that programming
Mm-hmm.
because it's been so deep with us.
And that
Um,
may also make people not want to start a healing journey.
that's why a lot of people they kind of almost dread it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think a lot of people dread it from the point of view of it being effortful, especially women. Guys, as men, they kind of have a, bring it on. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to go and handle it. But guys don't want to talk too much.
Mm-hmm.
They'll have it hard, but not like if there's a lot of talking. And the healing without effort, it's both um, not hard, it's effortless, and there's not much talking involved.
Mm-hmm.
And because what healing really is, um, it's about putting us back together into
Mm-hmm.
the place that we were or we should have been. Maybe we even didn't have a chance to be that. Maybe there was a trauma in the womb and we already came with a trauma,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there's a sense of like wholeness, of undiminished wholeness. And that's what we want to come back to.
Yes. Do you have specific methodologies that you use, or do you have a variety over the years of experience that you have that you put together as you're dealing with clients? You determine what might be the best for them, or is there any
I
particulars that you'd
have I
use?
have both. I have
Mm-hmm.
both. I've developed a universal system, so like different stories could happen to different people in different ways, but there's still the same system that puts things together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's
And that's
incredible.
what I've been researching. As an engineer, I wanted to know what are the underlying laws and structures and principles, because you always want to know what you're working with so that things, happen effectively. And what one finds out that when you are using the universal laws and principles, when you actually are on the principle, everything is effortless.
Mm-hmm.
If something becomes hard, if somebody tells you to do something and you have a resistance, right?
Right. Yes.
And
Yes.
rather than pushing through it, it's not exactly the right thing.
Mm-hmm. It's
Because
like
if it
pedaling
was,
your bike backwards,
yes,
instead of in the right
exactly,
direction. How
exactly.
how do you feel that your engineering background? Because I love that you're sharing about the structure of that. Because sometimes I think when we want to look at healing or spirituality, we tend to want to separate it from things and why when that engineering perspective can show us so much to apply that into spirituality, into healing. How has that helped you to come from a different perspective?
Well, what you're mentioning is quite misguided because if you look historically, for example, Leonardo da Vinci, he was a scientist and he was a head of the mystery school. So there were times when it was all one,
Mm-hmm.
and so splitting it. Sometimes we divorce ourselves from from kind of like universal, right?
Mm.
Um, approach. And we get proud that we think we've advanced, but we haven't advanced.
Right.
We just,
You developed another method to make it more difficult.
yeah,
She said.
we're not holding the whole picture,
No, exactly.
basically.
You know,
And talking about Leonardo da Vinci, I'm sorry, just I want to
no,
give an
please,
example
yes.
since I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about it. Um, so for example, energetic boundaries, like people have, there's a very strong concept of boundaries, especially in American society.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like a good thing, but we don't know what it exactly means. People have different sort of interpretation of what the boundary is and different experience, but there
Mm-hmm.
is a universal concept of a boundary, and it's a circle on Leonardo da Vinci's After Vitruvius.
Mm.
So
Can you
when the
explain a
man
little more?
stands,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, when the man stands with his like outstretched arms, remember,
Yes, yes,
surrounded by the circle.
yes.
So if you like right now, you could try it. If you like outstretch your both arms
Mm-hmm.
sideways, and so there at the edge of your fingertips
Mm-hmm.
is your boundary.
Mm-hmm.
It's like our biofield is membrane. So it's a boundary and it's an actual membrane, and it corresponds to the crown chakra, because the crown chakra is the last chakra on the body that's related to the physical world.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Do you,
basically starts from the crown chakra. You can see it's like a little bit lower above
mm-hmm.
his head, and then it goes all the way out. And when I teach people this concept, I give them an experience. They have to move 3 feet, 6 feet away from each other, and then at
Right,
that
because of
point,
the
yeah,
space.
if they start moving towards each other, they'll feel the sense of crossing. It's
Mm.
everybody feels it. It's undeniable.
Is there only one boundary altogether? Or when you were saying the crown chakra, do each of the chakras also have a different boundary? Like, do we cross closer into those boundaries?
Yeah, so there's another distinct boundary would be an emotional boundary that's much closer to the body, and that's a lot of people. That's what they consider to be boundary, because they have
Ah,
this reaction to way too close, like stop. But that's when you think about it, like if you think about your house, so the boundary that corresponds to the crown chakra, the one that's on a drawing, is the entrance to your house. It's your
mm,
soul's home.
mm-hmm.
The other one, the emotional one, is you could look at it as an entrance into your bedroom.
Yeah, they're already way too close.
Way too close.
They
You
already
know, you
passed the
get
other
it, right?
boundary.
Way too close, and it's too late almost to negotiate things.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. How do you recommend we start to connect with these boundaries and gaining more awareness and control over those?
So I have a textbook. I wrote it for New England School of Acupuncture when I was teaching the graduates the energy mastery, because they didn't have any awareness of energy. They were measuring the points.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't able to see energy.
Yeah, like the
So
meridian points, you mean?
yeah,
Yes, okay.
so they gave me this assignment to teach them the course, and they told me that they needed a textbook. So I wrote a textbook.
That's the way to do it, Yulia.
Yeah, and it's called Energetic Boundaries, the New Paradigm of Effortless Healing. But I also have a free meditation that people can get on my website. It's a this bubble meditation that where you experience that space, like
Mm-hmm.
you build that space and you experience uh, you being in that much space. So
I
a
love
lot of
that.
people for the very first time, and then it changes everything, because the whole point is to just living without the membrane, without occupying your space fully, creates a lot of suffering, especially at this point when the world is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So we're picking a lot of other people's stress because
Yes.
it's like the doors are open, right? Because we're all in our bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And so all that stuff is coming into the house, and the house is contaminated a lot of
Yeah.
time by other people's energy, but we think it's us.
Mm-hmm. How do you guide people to understand how to accept other people's boundaries too? Because often when we express our boundary or when we highlight what that boundary is, it's almost considered offensive when someone states that. What guidance do you give to us for first of all for our own work, but then also outward towards others to relay what this boundary is?
A lot of the time, when people try to assert their boundaries, they probably don't have a great boundary,
Mm-hmm.
and they already like feel compromised, and so they're being very emphatic about it.
Right, right,
Like
right.
there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of emotion
Mm-hmm.
that's been sent the other way. If you are owning your boundary, and if you are full into your space, full of yourself, it doesn't have to be perfect. That's not the requirement. It's just you need to occupy the whole space by you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that's in the book, it's a deeper Kabbalistic principle, that a very deep principle, which talks about how at the beginning, when the souls were creation, each soul, God gave it space, which is the space.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the space for each of us was given directly by the Creator for us, for our soul use.
Mm-hmm.
So it really, in a sense, is not created to hold anything else. It's kind of like immune system.
Right. And so you're
So
trying not to get your immune system compromised.
so people, when we do this process of like reclaiming our space and we get full, if before that somebody else would just like try to walk in and feel unimpeded, once you own your space, there's a pushback from the space.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they can't even get to you
Might not
because
even need words.
mightn't even, yeah, actually, when you are authentically in your energy, the words are not needed because
Yeah.
the person just knows, they
Yeah.
can tell.
Not to come. Mm-hmm.
But people, what they do instead, they try to protect themselves by shrinking, by pulling themselves in.
Mm-hmm.
Means as somebody is walking towards you, they're not feeling you anyway until they almost fall through
In your bedroom,
in your, like, and
basically.
even further, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. In your energetic space. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then again, I love that you're saying, because when you bring it down as you are, looking from this engineering perspective where you're looking at the structure of things, it really simplifies the healing.
Everything. It simplifies
Yes,
everything.
everything, because it
Everything.
seems so much more complicated, but everything you just said is super clear about what it is. And now you start to work with that information to work on yourself to get that healing. But like you said, I love how you mentioned that space that it is that we're trying to go to at the end of our healing, why we're not using those same virtues and qualities in the process of our healing for that end result.
And it comes from math, actually, because there's like a notion that if you are on a curve, right,
Mm-hmm.
which is like, let's say it's your healing journey, you start from one point of trauma and then you'll reach the point when the healing happens. So if you approximate along the curve, each part of the curve should have the same characteristic. That's like where I
Mm-hmm.
got it from.
Mm-hmm.
And I went like, oh, so it's horrible there, but like one day it's going to be better. That's if that's not acceptable anymore, then what would it look like, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If that's not according to the rules. The other great thing, what's not according to the rules, if the only energy in your field should be you, then you can't, like a lot of us, and maybe you've experienced before because you're a very empathetic person, like we bring others who are in distress into our space,
Absolutely. Yeah.
right? You do
Yeah, for
that, yeah.
sure.
Like sort of to feel for them, right? And B, it almost feels like we're helping them because
Yes.
now they're not having the full burden.
So we
So
take care of that for you.
yeah. So this is what happens. Like when you look at it from engineering perspective, you have tons of energy that's not yours in your field. So there's less space for you. And even more important, your field is not designed to work on somebody else's space in you.
Yeah.
I mean, on somebody else's energy in your space. So nothing will happen. It will just like sit there. They're not really helped. You're not really helped. And life starts becoming less effective.
Definitely. Because
Because
that
it
makes complete sense. You don't have the formula for their journey within you
yeah, it's like their frequency. So you can help them. You don't have to suppress in yourself the desire to help
to help.
someone.
Exactly.
Like you
Yes.
can, like, if that's part of your soul mission, like, sure, absolutely do that, but in their space.
And yes. I
You
wish they
know,
could see your face when you were saying it in their space.
in their space. Because then you can be fully in your mission. You could be channeling fully the energy of your purpose and your mission, which is what your space,
Yeah.
is designed to hold. And it's like whatever God's program was for you.
For you.
And then that gets expressed freely and powerfully, and that will be really helpful to them. So especially like with the kids, it's very hard not to be concerned for your kids um and not to pull what's going on with them in, but
Right.
it's incredibly ineffective. So that was like a big challenge for me. I have 2 boys, and I had to train myself because I'm realizing if I'm concerned for someone, if I'm worried, that's a lot of energy.
Yes.
That's
It
going
really
to
is.
disrupt them, right?
That's
So
so true.
I better come in back to myself, uh, organize my energy, connect to the vision for them, a positive vision that I want to happen, and hold that.
Why does it always come back to this airplane example? You got to put on your oxygen
That's
mask
it.
first.
That's it.
Really, because there's no point. If you
There's no
can't
point.
breathe, you can't put it on the child. You can't do it on that. And of course, it is very simplistic. It makes complete sense, but often it's not as complicated as we'd like for it to be to
Well,
do the
because we
work.
made it more complicated, like you said at the
Yeah.
beginning. You said it looks like we've complicated everything because we don't have that deeper knowledge that mystery schools taught. So Leonardo da Vinci, this the Vitruvius Man, the bubble, the membrane. For example, in the Jewish tradition, they talk about the same space, which is 2 elbows width.
Two
So
elbows with. Okay.
right, and that's the space, personal space, when Shabbat you can, do things for yourself, take care of yourself. So and then when they train. In I don't know, FBI, whatever. when they do martial art training, it's also like arm away. It has to
Yeah.
be
So your
arm length
arm's
away.
length.
Yeah,
Yes,
arm length.
exactly.
So if they start coming closer, you
You
already
have
need to
enough
do
to protect
something.
yourself. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
so
it is
true.
a universal principle because like it's actually there.
I love how you keep bringing us back to that because these are the things that are clearly what makes sense and that works, and yet we're out here trying to find other ways to do something that's really already laid out for us to do.
This experience of the bubble. And the second one is, so there are like 2 main structures that I work with. One is this like membrane field, right? Your home, which has to be the first thing. Otherwise, if you're going to move through like an expo and have different experiences, you have no place to put it if you haven't set the bubble to start with. Right? Like what space are you going to put things in? Just in the body is only 1/3. So 2/3 is the energy field. And we're trying to stop everything in the body, and that's why it's so hard.
Yeah, exactly.
And so the second one is the mechanism of dissociation.
Hmm.
So it's a yoga expo, and everybody knows about bandhas and the different postures, different breathing exercises to activate the bandhas. But the bandhas is also responsible for getting stuck in trauma and pushing the energy field out of the body.
Mm-hmm. That's
And
incredible.
yep. And so it's particularly difficult for yogic practices because a lot of the yogic practices, they start by moving energy up.
Hmm. Hmm.
And when we dissociate, it will also go up.
Exactly. I'm out of here.
So it's much easier to do it incorrectly
Hmm. Hmm.
because of this sort of underlying approach of kind of going up towards enlightenment out
Hmm.
of the body. And that's why they say that the Ajna chakra, which is
Brow.
behind the third
Yeah.
eye, is the most sensitive, and one shouldn't try to move beyond it or try to breathe into it so much. And it's not because it's more sensitive, it's because like you go beyond that, you dissociate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You separate from this world in a sense.
Right, right.
Hmm.
And so I want to kind of give that awareness to to people how to use it actually by bringing the energy more in. So
Hmm.
you set up the space, your bubble, and then you bring the parts of you. All of us have some parts out, and
Hmm.
to bring it in. And then I have this ambitious thing for the third part. Uh, I will pray to God a lot to help me put it all together. But